This is exactly how I would build wealth from absolute zero if I had to start over today. Not with capital, not with connections, but with the brutal principles that separate those who accumulate from those who merely survive. Naval Ravikant wrote something that changed everything for me. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity, a piece of a business to gain your financial freedom. Most people never understand this. They trade hours for dollars their entire lives, thinking that's what work means. It's not work. It's a trap disguised as stability. I spent years in that trap, waking up to an alarm that felt like a punishment, commuting to a place where my time was measured in 15-minute increments, building someone else's dream while my own withered in the margins of exhausted evenings. I thought I was being responsible. I thought I was playing it smart. I was actually playing it safe, which is the same as playing to lose. The moment everything shifted wasn't when I got more money. It was when I realized that poverty isn't just about what you lack, it's about what you refuse to see. I was poor not because I didn't have money, but because I didn't understand how money actually works.
Let me be brutally clear about something. Your financial situation right now is a direct result of the value you've created or failed to create in the marketplace. Not your effort, not your intentions, value. And value in the modern economy doesn't come from working harder. It comes from solving bigger problems for more people. Robert Greene teaches us that power is perception, but I'll take it further. Wealth is leverage, and leverage comes in three forms: code, media, and people. If you master even one of these, you can build wealth from nothing. Master all three, and you become unstoppable. Here's what I did when I had nothing. No savings, no network, no safety net. Just debt and a hunger that bordered on desperation. I asked myself one question: what can I learn in the next 90 days that will make me more valuable than I am right now? Not what degree should I get, not what certification should I pursue. What skill could I develop that would let me create value for others immediately? I opened my laptop and researched the highest paid skills that could be learned online: copywriting, sales, digital marketing, software development, video editing, design. I made a list. Then I did something most people never do. I picked one. Not the one that seemed most profitable, not the one that seemed easiest, the one that scared me the most, because fear is usually pointing at the thing that will transform you. I chose to learn how to sell through words, not because I was good at it, I wasn't, but because I understood something fundamental. Every business needs customers. Every customer is acquired through persuasion, and persuasion at scale is copywriting. Cal Newport wrote Deep Work, and in it, he argues that the ability to focus without distraction is becoming the superpower of the 21st century. He's right, but here's what he doesn't emphasize enough. Deep work on the wrong thing is just expensive procrastination. I didn't just work hard, I worked with precision. 4 hours every morning before the world woke up. No phone, no distractions, just me, my laptop, and the systematic deconstruction of how the best in the world sold through words. I studied Gary Halbert's letters, Eugene Schwartz's frameworks, Clayton Makepeace's sales copy. I didn't read for entertainment, I reverse engineered for installation. Every technique, every psychological trigger, every structural pattern. I copied successful sales letters by hand, not to plagiarize, to feel the rhythm, to understand the architecture, to let the patterns sink into my nervous system. 3 months later, I still had no money, but I had something more valuable. I had a skill that businesses would pay for. So I did something that felt terrifying. I reached out to businesses and offered to work for free. Not as charity, as a strategic investment in my own education.
I told them, let me write your sales copy. If it doesn't perform better than what you're currently using, you owe me nothing. If it does, pay me a percentage of the increase. Most said no, a few said yes, and one said yes to a deal that changed everything. They were a small e-commerce business doing about $50,000 a month in revenue. Their email marketing was non-existent. I wrote a 7-email sequence for their product launch. It generated an additional $32,000 in revenue. They paid me 20%, $6,400 for work that took me 8 hours.
That's when I understood what Naval meant. I wasn't being paid for my time. I was being paid for the value I created. And the value I created was multiplied by leverage. They sent that email to 20,000 people. I wrote it once. That's leverage. But here's where most people stop. They get their first win and they relax. They think they've made it. They haven't. They've just proven the concept. Now comes the real work. Scaling. James Clear wrote Atomic Habits, and the core insight is deceptively simple. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. I built a system. Every Monday, I sent cold outreach to 20 businesses. Every Tuesday, I followed up with anyone who responded. Every Wednesday through Friday, I did client work. Every Saturday, I studied the best performers in my field. Every Sunday, I reviewed my metrics and adjusted my approach. This wasn't inspiration, this was architecture. I designed my week so that success was inevitable if I just showed up consistently. And I did show up. Not because I was disciplined, because I had made failure more painful than the discomfort of showing up. I tracked everything. How many outreach messages I sent, how many responses I got, how many converted to calls, how many calls converted to projects, how much revenue each project generated, how long each project took. I treated myself like a business because that's what I was, a one-person value creation machine. 6 months in, I was making more per month than I had made per year at my job. Not because I was special, because I had leverage. I had a skill that created measurable value. I had a system that consistently connected me with people who needed that value. And I had the confidence to charge what I was worth because I could prove the return. But money was just the surface. What I really gained was something deeper. Sovereignty. The ability to wake up and decide how I would spend my time. The ability to say no to work that didn't excite me. The ability to invest in myself without asking permission from a boss, a bank, or anyone else. Ryan Holiday teaches us about the obstacle being the way. He's talking about stoicism, about reframing challenges as opportunities. But I'll tell you the real obstacle. It's not the circumstances. It's the story you tell yourself about the circumstances. The story that says you need money to make money. The story that says you need connections to get ahead. The story that says people like you don't become people like them. Those stories are lies. Comfortable lies that protect you from the discomfort of trying and possibly failing, but they're still lies. I didn't have money. I didn't have connections. What I had was the willingness to become valuable. And value is the only currency that matters. Here's what nobody tells you about building wealth from nothing. The first dollar is the hardest. The first client is the hardest. The first product is the hardest. Not because you don't know what you're doing, because you're trying to build external results while still carrying an internal identity of someone who has nothing. You have to kill that identity. You have to step into a new one. Not fake it until you make it. Become it before you see it. I stopped thinking of myself as someone trying to make money. I started thinking of myself as someone who created value and exchanged it for money. The shift is subtle. The results are everything. Seth Godin teaches that marketing is not about the stuff you make, but about the stories you tell. He's right.
But the first person you have to market to is yourself. You have to sell yourself on the story that you're capable of more than you currently are. And then you have to prove it to yourself through action. I kept a document. Every day, I wrote down one piece of evidence that I was becoming the person I wanted to be. Sent 20 outreach emails. Evidence. Finished a client project 2 days early. Evidence. Learned a new framework for writing headlines. Evidence. The document became my proof. Not for anyone else, for me. Because here's the truth. Most people fail not because they lack ability. They fail because they lack belief. And belief isn't built through affirmations or visualization. It's built through evidence. You want to believe you can build wealth? Start building it, even if it's just $10. That $10 is proof. That proof becomes belief. That belief becomes action. That action becomes systems. Those systems become wealth.
Tim Ferriss taught an entire generation about lifestyle design with the 4-hour work week. But what most people missed is that he didn't start with 4 hours. He started with 80-hour weeks, building something valuable enough that he could eventually step back from it. Leverage isn't a starting point, it's a destination, and you get there by front-loading the work. I worked more in my first year of building than I ever did in my job. The difference? I was working for myself. Every hour I invested was equity in my own future. Every skill I learned was a permanent asset. Every client I served was a reference for the next one. The compounding was invisible at first, then it was undeniable. By year 2, I had more clients than I could handle, so I did something that terrified me. I raised my prices, not by 10%, by 300%, and I lost half my clients overnight. But the ones who stayed paid me 4 times as much, so I made twice the revenue with half the clients. Same work, double the profit. That's leverage. Then I hired someone, not because I needed help, because I wanted to test if my system could work without me. I documented everything I did, every process, every template, every decision-making framework. I turned my brain into a manual, then I handed it to someone else and watched them execute it. They weren't as good as me at first, but they got better, and I got my time back. That's when the real wealth started, because now I could use my time to build the next thing while the first thing kept generating revenue. That's what rich people understand that poor people don't. You don't get rich by working. You get rich by building systems that work without you. Naval says, seek wealth, not money or status. Wealth is assets that earn while you sleep. Money is how we transfer wealth. Status is your rank in the social hierarchy. I stopped chasing money and started building assets. Skills are assets. Systems are assets. Relationships are assets. Attention is an asset. Every piece of content I created was an asset. Every client relationship was an asset. Every process I documented was an asset. I was building a machine that would eventually run without me. And here's what happened. 3 years in, I sold that business, not for millions, but for enough to give me options, enough to invest in the next thing without needing it to work immediately, enough to buy time, which is the only thing you can't get more of. But the money wasn't the point. The point was that I had proven something to myself. I could build value from nothing, and if I could do it once, I could do it again. The fear was gone, replaced by a quiet certainty that no matter what happened, I knew how to create.
Mark Manson wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and the core message is that you have to choose what to care about. Most people care about the wrong things. They care about looking successful instead of being effective. They care about comfort instead of growth. They care about what other people think instead of what they're capable of becoming. I stopped caring about everything except one question. Am I more valuable today than I was yesterday? If the answer was yes, it was a good day. If the answer was no, I adjusted. That singular focus turned years into decades of progress compressed into months.
Because when you stop caring about everything except getting better, you get better faster than you thought possible. Here's what I need you to understand. Getting rich from nothing isn't about finding a secret. It's not about luck. It's not about being in the right place at the right time. It's about understanding the mechanics of value creation and applying them with relentless consistency. You learn a valuable skill, you offer it to the market, you get paid, you systemize, you leverage, you scale, you reinvest, you repeat. Every person who built wealth from nothing followed some version of this path. The details change, the principles don't. And the principles are simple, they're just not easy, because they require you to become someone you're not yet. Someone who values long-term equity over short-term comfort. Someone who sees obstacles as information rather than barriers. Someone who understands that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is not a problem to solve, it's a path to walk. And you have to walk it alone at first, not because you're antisocial, because transformation is internal before it's external. You can't delegate becoming. You can't outsource growth. You have to put in the hours. You have to endure the discomfort. You have to face the fear that maybe you're not capable of more. And then you have to prove that fear wrong through action. This is the path, not the only path, but a proven one. Learn, create, offer, systemize, leverage, scale, repeat. And somewhere along that path, if you stay consistent, if you stay focused, if you refuse to quit when it gets hard, you'll look up and realize something. You're not the person who started this journey. You're not the person who had nothing. You're someone who built something. And once you've done it once, you can do it again, and again, and again.
That's what getting rich from nothing really means. Not accumulating money, becoming the kind of person who knows how to create value. Because once you become that person, money is just a lagging indicator. It shows up eventually, not because you chased it, because you became worth chasing. The question isn't whether you can do this, the question is whether you will. Whether you'll trade the comfort of staying who you are for the discomfort of becoming who you could be. Whether you'll trust the process long enough to see the results. Whether you'll keep going when everyone around you thinks you're crazy for trying, because they will think that, and they'll be wrong. Not because they're bad people, because they can't see what you see yet. They can't see the person you're becoming. Only you can see that. And you have to believe in that person before anyone else will. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting. Stop preparing. Stop thinking you need one more course, one more book, one more sign that you're ready. You're not ready. You'll never be ready. Ready is a myth. Capable is what matters. And you don't discover capability through thought. You discover it through action. Start today. Pick a skill. Learn it. Offer it. Get paid. Prove to yourself that value creation is real, that leverage is real, that you can build something from nothing. Because once you prove it to yourself, everything changes. Not because the world changes, because you do. This is how you get rich from nothing, not with magic, not with luck, with value, leverage, and the refusal to accept that where you are is where you have to stay. Fortune doesn't favor the bold. It favors the valuable. Become valuable. Everything else is downstream from that.